left, it went black. Wait, we got to do the little promo bit.
This week on the Adobe Video CHiNWAG, grab your safari suit as we go on an adventure to find, filter and search. Join John, Jimmy and Paul and explore the possibilities of the little search box that could. Yes, it's been around for a while, but its strength in the modern workflow has grown to meet the high demands of large-scale productions with mountains of clips that need to be assembled and sorted efficiently. We'll look at the find dialog, search bins, and search in timeline, and discuss some of the workflows that optimize your edit organizational skills and how you can group and filter clips to make the most of your footage across your projects. But more importantly, we'll help you pacify your producer Karen and her story editor Kyle by making your response times to complex search requests easy and painless. You'll look like a hero, trust us. All this and more on the Adobe Video CHiNWAG this Thursday night.
All right, let's make sure we've got all the channels open. Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 9 of season 1 of the Adobe Video CHiNWAG. I have joined with me Jimmy Harmsworth. Say hi, Jim.
Hello.
And Paul Murphy. Say hey.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Paul. That was a little
How y'all doing today?
You give me the eyes. You give me the eyes, pal.
I am, yeah.
Great.
We're actually in the same room. How you doing, Jimmy? What's going on?
Oh man, I don't know.
Have you got your masks and the distancing going?
That's all right. Well, I'm sure we're gonna have a chat in the car park later.
Jimmy,
off to a great start.
You brought a special prop with you today.
Well,
how about you give us?
I had a prop today, which is this bad boy. I got the other day. It's a Novation launchpad mini. And I thought if I could figure out how to do the mixing console stuff, I thought my sound card would actually play ball, but it didn't. But I was going to play the intro live. But, you know, that's something we can set up for the next couple of weeks, and maybe you can enjoy it then.
Well, why don't you give us a little riff now?
Well, I can't because it doesn't work. It doesn't seem to go through my sound card.
Oh, what we were in testing?
You were listening
we were
to it
getting
before because I had to pull out my vocal mic and then plug in the bloody... This, I don't know, for some reason it's only one channel, but it's a 2-channel device. So Focusrite needs to get their shit together because for some reason it's not playing ball with Microsoft Teams. So,
well, this is a visual medium. Can you just like describe to us what we would have heard?
it would have been like a you know, a retro wave, synth wave, rainy, definitely kind of what the kids listen to these days, amazingness. And there would have been beats on left and beats on right, and you would have been like totally immersed in it. And then it's just like a DMT trip, really.
That's going straight to #1, that one.
Oh, for
just
sure.
Based
The
on
ARIA, I had the ARIA people were on the phone just before.
Already.
It was just,
and we can't even get the sound working. That's amazing.
No. That was just, I played a riff on Facebook before. Like I did a 10-minute. I did a 10-minute set. 10-minute set. Boom. The phone was ringing. I'm like, okay, I guess they're into it. Thanks, Novation. Your setup packs are amazing.
Woohoo! So my internet's running a little funky today. Don't know why.
Yes.
Good old main
NBN
provider with the beginning the letter T. So today we're talking about find, filter, and search,
which is perfect. Good segue. Letter T. Let's search.
Yes, let's do a search for the letter T. Okay, so we've got a few people already joining into the chat here. This is awesome. Sadat De Silva. I've met Sadat way back at the Australian
way back as well.
Cinematographers Society.
That's right. We were both there.
Yes, that's right. We were when we were talking about your film Red Obsession.
Yeah, and Sadat also bought my book, The Cool Stuff on Premiere Pro. Thank you, Sadat.
Thanks,
nice.
Man. No refunds on that one.
Good to see you here. Good to see you here, though. Don't burn it.
No, don't burn it. Andrew Hicks is back. Good old Mr. Andrew Hicks from BWRM, I should say. They were the first guest speaker that we had. Was that episode 1 or episode 2? I'm trying to think.
No, I feel like it was 2.
It was like 2.
Might have been.
It's a good one. Good app. One of my faves.
How long has lockdown been? Who knows? Because we struggle to find out in Victoria what day it is.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I have no idea what day it is half the time. Oh, I've got to be on CHiNWAG tonight.
Yeah.
Better get my CHiNWAG together then. Okay, cool. So we thought we'd go through some of our top faves and do some screen share on that too. Guys, did you want to do any screen share of yours to show your little workflow, hints and tips, things like that?
No.
No, you just want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I would. Firstly, I just want to hear Paul's actual. If we're talking about hints and tips, or are we going to do some last week? We didn't have any last week stuff. We're good with that.
I think we were good from last week. Yeah, we are trying to start the show picking up where we left off.
So all that bullshit that we just talked about aside, I think then I'm really interested in the way Paul uses this, because my approach to the find, search, and smart bin is certainly different.
Yes.
Than the way you would approach it. Because I am so junior with it, I just make it up as I go along and hope that it actually works. If you have a workflow that you say, we're doing a documentary and it's multi-layered, there's multi-cities, maybe it's a shot around the world or whatever. That's what I'm interested in, because I use it for basically finding clips that clients have no idea where they are.
Yes.
And they give me numbers and they're just like, well, it said this and that. So if you've got some gems that we can open up on, that would be good.
I can tell you, I am such an unsexy editor, and you will understand from my answer is that there are like a bunch of different cool ways to find and search and create search bins, and like there's all this metadata stuff you can search on. When people ask me like what's some tips and tricks for searching your project, my boring answer is you gotta have a naming convention for your project, and it's got to be strict, and you got to follow it. And so as editors, we use a lot of ZZs at the start of our project. If we want to sort of move something down the sorting order, but I have a whole naming convention, so that when I need to find something, I find it quickly. And it all starts with that. I mean, there are other sort of tips and tricks you can do for finding something, but it all starts with your own personal organization. That's the only way to manage a project for 2 years, is anything that comes in, it's database management, garbage in, garbage out. Anything that comes in has to be named in a way that it will be able to be found later.
Does metadata play a big role when it comes in? Do you play, is that, or is that you're entering that as it comes in?
Yeah, when I started out editing many, many years ago, I was so dogmatic about getting, some text in that description field that I could do a search or a sort on later. Every single take had a description in it. And I don't do that at all anymore. So I find entering metadata, even on a film, is something that I want to keep to an absolute minimum. I will more often use something like the description field for if I am archiving an old version of a sequence, I will use the description field to say what's specific about that archive of the sequence. So that when I go, oh, where's that cut where I use that interesting piece of music, I can search for that. But clip by clip, I actually don't do a lot of metadata entry at all. The key there is the bin you put it in and the name of that bin. And I will always have a spreadsheet outside of Premiere that will have corresponding information there. It will have, that's where I will enter location. I will enter, a description of the scene, maybe who the characters in the scene are. That all happens in a spreadsheet outside of Premiere.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Even though Premiere is sort of capable of that, there is one problem across all editing software. I'm fairly certain it's all editing software. And in fact, like the head of the Editors Guild in America brought this up a long time ago. And that is, the problem is that we can name a bin, but we can't write a description for that bin. And that would just change my life, because all of my bins have numbered codes to them. That's how I identify oh, this is in this location and it's this shoot. Everything's number based. And if I could just write a description of what that was, I wouldn't need to keep a spreadsheet outside of that. So boring answer, but my background is in database management. So I sort of, when I came to a Premiere project, I was like, oh, this is just a database. So I've just got to like maintain consistency. I'll be able to find whatever I want for a long amount of time. Boring answer.
No, it was good because do you get any chance to tell camera department to get their shit together?
No. And you get such mixed results too. You just get such mixed results. You get great sound guys as well, where they're naming the actual channels that are coming in. It's just, so you're not actually having to run off and look at the sound log. You can just go, oh, boom, this character, that character, but it's a mixed bag, and more often.
Do you reckon they should be? Do you reckon departments should be up in their game so editors don't have to cop it in the arse most of the time?
Yeah, I do. I definitely, if you've got like a DIT person,
Well, I don't think it's even on DIT people. It's just like, mate, the DOP's getting paid, top dollar for this gig.
Yeah.
And he can't even name his files. And it's like, well, who's his camera operator? What's he not telling the camera operator what to do? And it's just like the basics. And it's almost like, well, I'm too important to have to worry about naming files. But it's like, right, well, then you blame him when post can't find that shot that you said was amazing because you didn't tell us what day it was, and before or after lunch, because you don't have really an excuse on that front. But they're like, well, we're too busy making it look good. Well, okay, but the tool that you're using
has that ability,
has the ability to do that. So you might as well use the tool correctly, because I don't saw wood.
And that would be so much better if it was embedded in the metadata, because too often it arrives to you in a folder structure. The folder structure is the metadata, right? It's in a folder called day 3 or something. And you're like, oh, don't move anything out of that folder. I'll never know where it came from.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it was actually in the metadata, I have done projects before where I've been embedding that stuff in the comments section. I actually had like a template a while ago that I don't use as much anymore, but I had like 50 search bins, and we will talk about search bins that were just automatically searching files for like day 1, day 2, day 3. And I put all of that in the metadata because it's quick to do it if you're in the metadata panel. And that just automatically organizes my project for me. So even though everything in my bin structure is searched based on scene, so like slate, I can easily reverse engineer that and figure out what day it was shot based on that metadata that I'd entered in. But on my most recent projects, I'm not doing that at the moment.
But that's organization. So, and it is that is you approach it with that organizational mind.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump into these. I suppose the search function and also the smart bins. I think that'd be probably the way to start.
Yeah.
Search and timeline is something that I think most people are aware of. I'm not sure.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
Oh,
that's
I say
funny.
search in timeline, but it's called find in timeline. I know that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, a lot of people I've come across recently don't know it's there, or they heard about it a while ago, but they never really tried to do it. So might be good to just I might do a bit of a screen share while we chat, while we CHiNWAG.
Yeah, go for it.
So you guys talk through it, and I'll do my best to keep up with a demo of it. All right. So keep describing
find in timeline, or are we going with the search bins?
I reckon. Pick one.
Let's go with the search bin first. Paul, tell me what you do with the search bin.
Search bin is amazing because in the past, everything that you would do with a bin, you had to do manually. So if you brought media into a bin, you would just dump it in that bin, and that's the only place that it existed. But a search bin, it will populate what's inside of that bin based on metadata. So searching through your file for specific search terms. And probably the places that I use this the most, well, I reckon the number one place I use it for the most, in fact, in my Premiere project template, I will have a search bin that just sits there that's searching for anything that's offline. So if you've ever done an export before and suddenly you get a little message that says, hey, there are some files in this project that are offline, you should check it out. I can just go straight to that bin and go, oh, I don't need any of those, that's fine. Or these are the files I need to bring online before I start exporting. When I was doing a lot of cutting in America, in America, especially in television, you'd always be receiving things in two different frame rates, so 23976 and 2997, and whether you had both of those or just one of those would greatly determine what time you'd be cutting at. So I always had a bin that would tell me if something 2997 was coming in. You could do the same thing with like interlaced footage if you wanted to know that you've got something that's interlaced. I'm not sure if we still have the option to search for interlaced.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to find the offline thing. I know you can do it when you just search like offline in the normal panel, but for a smart bin, I'm not sure because I just tried doing it. It didn't work.
Yeah, so offline is, so there's offline properties that works, but you can also do it with status, search status, find offline.
Let me try this then. So I'm going to take something offline. So I've got some files offline and I'm going to edit this search bin. Offline properties. And what do you type inside that offline properties bit?
So try and do it with status. Try and do it with status.
Okay, okay. Status, find, offline.
Maybe.
Try that. Oh, there we go. It worked. Yee! We got lift off. Okay.
So that's like my number one use for search bins. But probably my number two use as well. So if you have a project that is really big, probably means it's broken up into a lot of bins. So you've got bins within bins within bins. And sometimes you just want the ability to go, look, I just want to see all my video files, or I just want to see all my audio files, or I just want to see all my sequences. So being able to have search bins that are based on, I think we call them media type. Media type. There we go. So video refers to video only files. Movies refers to movies and video and audio files, and audio is obviously audio, but also being able to just get all of your sequences into one bin is good too.
Yep, that is a good one of sequences.
So as a good sorry, that was a bit hot. So as a good case of practice, do you set up your search bins if you've been handed an entire project of bits and pieces just to get things started, just to populate, see what's there?
Yes.
And then hopefully you can do that searching where the producer walks in and goes, I want something that was shot in Kabul in 1994.
Yeah.
And you've just kind of like Kabul 1994 because you're across the media. So do you put an eye across everything and then start to do your search bins, or do you just do it randomly?
I would say that's definitely a good way to work if you come into another editor's structure, folder structure, and you just don't know what's going on. That's just a way to just eyeball, this is everything.
How do you spell Kabul?
Project.
Kabul, Kabul.
There's no H in there? I thought there was a H in there.
There is not.
There's not. Kabul. It's in Afghanistan, man.
Cool. So what I'm doing is I'm using the metadata panel to make a bunch of selected, like random selected shots here. Yeah, and then I've set location as the filter in the metadata panel. And then from there, I can see that in the file section, I've got shot location. So then I'm putting Kabul in there, and then it's adding that one metadata field for that one across the selected shots. So then when I want to find Kabul, I can either type it into the main filter list, or I can, while that's selected, then click on the smart bin. Or the search bin, and then it creates a search bin based on the term Kabul. So then these are the terms that are in there. So if I was to go back in and decide that the audio clips that I've got right now are not actually that shot location, I take them off that list by selecting them all, going back to the metadata panel, and then deleting the shot location data, which is only in one spot. It applies that delete across all of the selected clips. And then my smart bin is now reduced to the other shots that were still using the Kabul metadata. So that's there's a couple different fields and things going on there, but when you know how many different ways you can sort of push and pull it, you can actually get quite a lot of flexibility and searchability through all of that. And you can have as many search bins as you want, really. And you've got multiple terms too. So you could have, let's have a look here. You've got 2 of them. I kind of flicked through showing it before, but once you've made one, you can edit the search bin information. And so you got search one type, and you can pick which one it is, or all metadata. Then you've got and or. So then you can set up something else, a secondary as well. So you can have 2 different terms that you're looking for, and that sort of, yeah, it gives you some pretty good flexibility.
And you can enter so much metadata into files if you really want to sit there and do that, or if you're in the lucky position of having an assistant that's going to sit there and do that. I mean, they can metadata to the cows come home, because there is so many fields that you can apply. I think shot location is a great one that you pointed out there, John. It just allows that. If you could have shot day and or just dates, which is another one that I use a lot, which is
day of shoot.
Day of shoot. That works a lot for me. So my search bins would either go into day of shoot if I've got 3 to 5 cameras, and I make sure that everybody's labeled, because I do go around and I'm a bit of a Nazi about telling the camera department to make sure their clips are labeled correctly for camera A, B, C, and D, and as well as day. So it'll be for camera designation, then it'll be a D, and then it'll be 1 through 5 if it's a 5-day shoot. So at least I've got some kind of semblance of a file structure before it comes out of the camera. And then after that, if I do assign it to somebody to wrangle, then I will be saying like shot types, and then they will go through and I'll give them a brief list, which is 1 to 5 different names or types of shots, and generally B-roll will be at the top. So I definitely want to know which shots are B-roll and which shots are interview or piece to camera or direct address or dialogue. And then once I know that, I can certainly sort that out. And then if I start to lose control of the project, I will then use the search bins, bring everything back together, and then I can start multi-clipping, because fingers crossed everything was time locked together, so our time codes are all good. If I need to do my multi-clips and then sync that with the audio stuff, which can be the last project I did, we had 5 channels of different people speaking, so I wanted to make sure that I could bring them in and sync it all up, and I didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot, because I don't want to do it manually anymore. And that seemed to be the way to do it, was the search bins to gather all my scenes together based on the day and shot number designations, and it worked pretty well.
And it's probably important to mention that it's dynamic as well, so it's forever refreshing based on how you're changing your metadata,
which is great.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think I kind of did a demo of that anyway.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's move on to the timeline bit. So I'm just gonna throw to you guys. Talk about it a bit while I start putting something together.
So the deal is that I don't. Paul's going to tell me a lot about the way he uses it, because I actually didn't really know a lot about it. I used it for searching basic bits that I lost.
Yeah.
But in terms of a workflow, I never actually incorporated it. It wasn't something I did. So if you were going to use this tool, like what's the main thing you use it for?
Well, I reckon there's probably 2 modes in this tool to think about, and one of them is find next, and the other one is find all. So find next, you're kind of like, look, just show me the next shot that's got Joe in it. So if you had some metadata, which was a description, a file name, if anywhere in that file the word Joe appears, then you want to find the next clip that has the word Joe in it. Now, I probably use that half the time, but where I use it the most is find all, because if I had like a bunch of files that needed to have a specific label applied to them, then I could just do Control Command F, search for any file that has this in it, and when I do find all, it will select all of them on my timeline. So if you've got a really long, busy timeline, then you can do find all. It selects everything, And then you can start doing things like delete, add a label color. Maybe you want to trim them or something like that. But it's just a way to be able to select, rather than one clip at a time, select a whole bunch of them and perform some sort of edit or organizational function on them.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm just drawing up here. I've got like it's not a super complex timeline, but and so I have randomly selected a few shots here and added a tape name, Joe. And so now I've hit Control F or Command F. I was on a Mac. Inside the timeline, I was trying to find where the actual find function is from the settings or the little flyout menu, that hamburger menu, and it's tricky to find. But if you do use a pretty common combo, you can go and find it. Now, to find all, you just got to go in and set your term and then select Find All, and it finds everything that's got that name Joe associated to it. And that's based on all metadata, which is part of the clip metadata tape name. If I had something in here, and I think I've got a few clips in here that are sort of the same sort of thing. So what have I got here? There's a word here, case study, right? Let's just pop out of that and do find and look for something specific in the name of the file and look up case. It's selected now. There's audio that's associated to it, and then there's the clips themselves. So there's different ways that you can go about using it, and this is one of the really good ones. Now, what's pretty cool about this, and not many people really know, is that the effects, if you start doing effects on something, and we'll use good old Blur because that's, you know, always the one that Adobe use anyway for doing demos. Let's look at Gaussian Blur, and let's apply that on. I haven't got any effects on there yet. Let's have a look here. Effect controls, and we'll give that a nice blur. Now I'm going to select the name of that and then do a copy and then select just a couple of random shots and hit paste. And that should have pasted on there. Let's have a look here. Yep, there we go. We've got one there. And we've got another one there. Okay. So you could also do a filtered search in the timeline based on effects that contains, and in this case, GAU, find all, and it finds all of the shots that have actually got that. That selects them. But what you really want to do is probably find something, and then when you found it, you go, oh, there's that filter that I need to get rid of. Go away. And then you can kind of go back in again and then jump to the next find, and it'll show you the next shot that's got it too. Now, if you did do the find all, and this is your example, you want to find all, it selects them all, then you right click on them, go to, what am I looking for here? I want to remove attributes. And then I can see here that Gaussian Blur is one of them. So turn off these other options that I don't want to remove the attributes of, just keep the effects and that specific effect, hit OK, and now none of them have got that Gaussian Blur on there anywhere.
Or the other thing that happens a lot is when you have to deliver to Post House, they want you know, any kind of effects clips on their own track for an EDL. So if you select all, you could just Alter Option, bump them up to the next track to get all of your effects clips on the one track.
Yeah, there's some really cool little things that you could do just like that. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, and I think a lot of people, there's not enough time for us to really go in and explore doing them, but you can talk about them. You can start to think of different ways that you would utilize it as well. And that's a great one where you select all of a specific thing and then you can move them that way too. That just helps you kind of not just find, but you're filtering, and then you sort of search and find the right thing and then do something about it and do something with it.
And it's an amazing tool. If you're a documentary, because I defer back to the default story that I have, 2009, Final Cut Pro delivered a documentary by a bloke who'd been shooting for 10 years. There was no way of actually compiling or sorting or viewing or grouping or anything to do with any of the footage that he had. And it was a very political documentary, and it had been like a lot of footage had been smuggled out of the country. And it was very, very difficult because he would have to sit there and say, I think it's in this folder and I think it's on this day. and I think it's after there's a goat that walks across a hill that I filmed, and you're sitting there going, holy Jesus, is this going to be the way we do this? Like, you're going to have to describe to me every piece of footage because you're across it and I am not.
Yeah.
Because if there is that simple pre-think in the way things are done, and I do talk to a few documentary filmmakers who are shooter, predator, shooter, editor people. They direct it and just come up with their own footage, and they're just happy to shoot. They're happy-go-lucky. We'll just shoot everything, and whatever. And I've got the Blackmagic 6K, and it didn't cost me very much, and I'm just going to go and point it at everything. Those cameras do have the capacity now to at least enter in. Well, you can enter very advanced metadata if you want to. Nobody's going to do that because they don't have the time to sit there and say, I'm pointing my camera at a cow on the banks of the Ganges, and it's a medium close-up. Like, they're not going to. You can enter that in if you want, but you're not going to. But they can put simple metrics in, which is the location and the day and what's happening. That sort of stuff. It's going to make this whole process amazingly easier, because when it comes to post, then at least you can start setting these bins up. They will be data attached to these clips, and cameras do the geolocation stuff. I'm not sure does Adobe do geolocation stuff, because I know that a lot of cameras are doing that now, where it actually tags where it was shot, like your phone does. I know that the one that I just bought does that. Like, if you enable the Wi-Fi, it connects and then update what it's shooting, and if it's hot spotted and stuff, which also would be amazingly helpful, I think, to editors, because then you could say, oh, it was this date and we were here. And you just sort of, if you could enter that in, that'd be great, because then it'd be like, boom, smart bin right there. But there are simple things I think that can be done in shooting stage that will enable sorting faster, because I never want to go back to sorting 10 years of footage. I mean, who does?
Yeah. There's a couple comments coming through. Actually, there's one good one that I'll address now, is that it's actually something that Felix has come up with here, where you can use the same keyboard shortcut in a different panel and it does its own thing in that other panel. So that's something that I want to bring up as well. To help with the finding, the filtering, and the searching, definitely use keyboard shortcuts. Holy crap. If you're not using 100%. Keyboard shortcuts, you are wasting so much time.
Missing out.
And there's so many things that you could put in as well. Like, there's a ton of things that are just not in there. And this is something I want people to be conscious of too. If you ever trash your preferences or reset the preferences, it goes back to the default keyboard layout, right? But the thing is, you've still got your ones in here. So just go back and make sure you go and reset that, and then you can start to map things out. And there's a ton of stuff that's useful, like the markers and using a specific kind of marker. So the standard marker is M, but I like to use now these other markers like the blue, the cyan, green, magenta, orange. And I label these across my numbers on the QWERTY keyboard section. And I only really use a couple that I haven't got mapped right now, but let's say the red one. I do like the red one because that to me is sort of like a warning, something I really need to go back and look at. So I set that to 0. Now it does say here that 0 is already being used by something else. It's got to do with multicam recording. Blah, I don't need that. That's fine. If you hit something and you read that and realize I do maybe need that, hit undo and it won't affect the other one.
Or create workflows that suit what you're doing.
Well, that's the other thing. And you can come up with multiple keyboard layouts as well. So you can save another one and save as and say, this is my multicam one. That's
where I'm up now. Yeah, I'm making multiple keyboard shortcuts depending on what mode I'm in the edit.
Yeah,
if I'm like ranking takes on whether they're good or bad, I'll use label colors for that, and I'll use 1 to 10 for that, or probably 1 to 5 more likely. But memorize the keyboard shortcut for keyboard shortcut. That's my advice. It's Option Command K.
It's going to get better. It's going to get better the more that you do it, and you need to practice it. It's like I was a drummer for 15 years, and playing drums, when I stopped for 3 months, I become like I've never played drums before. So it is practice, but I'll tell you, your workflow is going to be absolutely insane if you can get those shortcuts down, because I can move through and edit. I'll have a rough. So I've got 3 phases of what I use in my shortcuts, which is my ingest and compile phase. Then I've got my sort of rough cut phase, and then I've got my fine cut phase.
Yeah.
So all of those different phases have different shortcuts.
Yeah.
And I've got them down where my left hand's going to be doing some crazy stuff as I'm going through and compiling footage and just deleting out and moving things and just absolutely, murdering all of the compiles so that all of the good stuff goes straight to the producer. And yes, I've got my originals in a compile, and it's all time coded so we can see it, and those rushes go up to Vimeo. So if you need to refer back to something the producer wants to see, which is completely ridiculous, it's never going to make it into the final cut, it's still there, and we can reference it with time code to a particular moment. We can do that, but then as we progress through, then those shortcuts change. And Paul, I'm sure you do the same thing, but for me, that changed my life. I mean, I can move through the compile phase so rapidly now that when I teach people my techniques, they're just like, oh my God, okay, because they're just used to using a mouse and the space bar.
Yeah.
And it's like, mate, watch your life change, and you teach them it, and you just see them get using it, and they're like, oh my God, my life is coming back, because it's not time wasted. It's no longer time wasted.
I think it's also overwhelming because a lot of people assume that in order to use keyboard cuts, they have to start mapping a whole heap of stuff. But I reckon, like, if you just learn like the 5 most important shortcuts, default shortcuts in each panel, that's going to get you on your way very quickly. Of course, there's a lot more on the actual timeline, but just start with those Premiere Pro defaults. Because I use a lot of them. I don't map any of them, to be honest. I reckon probably in terms of stuff that I've mapped, there's much less than what I use that's default.
Yeah.
Wow. So I don't at all. I've completely remapped everything, but yeah, I'm retarded. That's fine.
But I think also because I spent a lot of time as a trainer, I trained myself to learn those defaults because I didn't want to have to say, and then to select something you press Q, and everybody's like, well, that's not working for me.
Yeah, but you're gonna hate this because all of my shortcuts are based on the Final Cut Pro 7.
Oh.
That's how I started. I just set, when I first moved back to Premiere like full time, which was 2009. I think I was like, "Yep, I'm done with Final Cut 7," and I just set everything to the shortcuts to Final Cut 7. Oh, they're great. They've got them there. Set it to that, and then it just grew from there.
I haven't checked in on that for a while, but I did the math on it a while ago, and Premiere Pro default shortcuts were like 350. Final Cut default shortcuts were 200. Avid is like 150 or something. So you start off with like 100 less shortcuts if you start with Final Cut or Avid.
Right, which doesn't surprise me because I've got 3 phases now, but the problem is those 3 phases are still based on the original file.
Yeah, right.
Layout.
Get out.
We all know what A means. We all know what B. We all go B for blade, don't we?
Well, I always thought C for cut. So
that's right. But cut. B for blade, C for cut. But I go A for arrow. People.
B is mappable anyway because B. Yeah. I use B for something else because B is ripple edit tool. And if you're using B to switch tools, you're wasting time already. You should just be using control or command.
Buddy. We come around my place. We'll have a barbecue. And
I thought we were in the same place. Aren't you across the room?
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ray Martin's just over in the other corner there.
Sure.
But no, we'll come around and we'll compare shortcuts. It'll be nice because I've got a left-hand technique that would, you'd be interested in, I reckon.
Yeah, I'd be into it. Walter Murch described editing as playing the piano.
It is. That's it. That's what I do because I play a bit of keys and that's for me. It feels like that because I can actually play those moments on my left hand. That's absolutely right. And I think, obviously, editing being a rhythmical sport.
Yes.
It does have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going
Now,
to play some
if you do,
music
if you,
for us right now, but we can't because it does not work.
oh, your thing doesn't work. If you start to map out your own stuff and you kind of forget what it is you mapped and you go, oh, I wish there was like a PDF I could make. You can actually copy to the clipboard, which I've just done a quick demo of on screen there, where this is going to have, if I find the 0, let's see, it's looking for F10. No. Oh, that's not going to help me. What do I want? I want the red marker. That's what I want. Boom. Red marker 0. Now I've just basically copy pasted this into a text only application. So let's look at the word pad and let's put it in there. There you go. And now everything is sort of set up with a bit better kind of way of showing exactly what you have and then what combo of keys you might be using as well. So you can.
Are you going to show us? Because I'm not seeing it.
Are you not seeing? Oh God, you're seeing. It's looking at me. Bloody hell.
I know you're a good looking. You know.
Yeah.
I'm a good looking rooster.
I spent all day like looking at that, but.
So when you go into the keyboard shortcuts, start this all over again. I need a drink.
When's the next volleyball championship, by the way? Because I'll come down there and watch you play that Top Gun game.
Good. So if you copy to the clipboard based on your own ones, right? And then you go to some sort of, Word or whatever, you can just paste that in and then it's got all of the shortcuts and it's got all your ones, the ones that you made. So there is a way. There is a way. Now I'll do the search again. Let me do this search here. Red. Find. Add red marker. 0.
Perfect.
Boom. You gotta love it when the demo's actually being seen. So there's heaps of different things that you could be doing to sort of accelerate the speed and finding something using the keyboard to find the function is a part of that find and search optimization as well. Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone's played games. So if you're a gamer, it's the same sort of deal. So you're getting paid to be an editor and you can make your things work faster because you know which buttons to press to make things move faster. It's next level. Like it is next level when you can get a compile together and start actually doing a craft edit with some music underneath it and you're actually shaping and you're in that creative zone. So your mindset is all of a sudden, oh, well, I've gone through all the boring stuff that I hate doing in a rapid amount of time. I've done the search. I've put everything in the right spot and everything's going to be happy. The boss is not going to care. And now I'm in craft editing. I'm putting some, temp music underneath and then just going for it, getting that edit together. You're in the zone where you're actually caring about what you're doing instead of doing all the boring stuff, which, nobody really wants to do. And it's a hard slog when you've got a lot of stuff to get through. But once you got that in place, hey, things start to happen and you're actually in that creative zone. And I'm all for it. I'm always pitching to people like, I want you to get to that place where you're doing the stuff that's really interesting to you, where you can actually do some story editing. You can start putting together the way that the flow of this piece is going to work. And then people just sort of light up. And that's the thing. We've all got to do boring stuff. We all have to do it, but there is a quicker way.
Yeah. I'm actually going to show something here that's a good way to start understanding what you might want to map. So as you're working, you really want to pay attention to a lot of the little details. So for example, if I'm labeling clips here with a certain color, right, and I want to maybe select them because there's a reason why you would want them to be grouped and you want to select them, you can go in and actually select the entire label group. Now that function, if I remember that I can go and search and then find that particular function and see how it's actually grabbed them all. So now I can start doing some cool stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
So as you're clicking through different functions through the tools, take note of what they're called. Because if that's something you end up doing again and again, you can look up, select, label, group, right? And then add something in here. And you can add more than one thing. So I might use shift 8. Why not? It opens the media browser. I never use the keyboard shortcuts to open the panels anyway. You can actually add a second thing as well. So if F8, let's make it F8 if I can. My F keys are all dark and hang on, here we go. F8 is that one. Right, so it's F8 or Shift 8. That's something else a lot of people don't realize is you can go about adding more than one keyboard shortcut. So let's do, that's the shot that I want to select all.
I think the idea behind that was that, like, if you, a lot of people who use tablets for editing, usually alter between them, so their hand is in a different direction. So sometimes they'll use a different shortcut for a different thing.
Yeah, and that's absolutely, moving forward, that's absolutely going to be, a lot of editing is going to be happening on tablets. I don't think I personally ever edit on a tablet because I'm too old. But, Windows 95 is my friend. So, when I see you on Netscape Navigator, we'll...
You rank really well on that. You rank really well.
Oh, well, thank you. I try my best because it dates my performance. But there's absolutely the only way things is in that direction. So John's absolutely right.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap it up, guys. I got one last thing to show. So markers. We talked about markers. We have an episode dedicated to markers. Always, we just scratch the surface. There's so many different things we could go in and look at. So go look at markers if you haven't watched that episode yet. But on the markers side, while I'm in here, I've got different markers that are there for different reasons. Forget about the words. I just want to limit what markers I'm looking at when I want to jump to the next one, because I can jump around. As you can see, I click on the different marker and the playhead jumps to the different thing, right? Now, if I want, I use this to limit. Just show me the red markers. A lot of people don't understand what those buttons are there for. So just show me the markers that are the yellow one. Just show me.
Let's talk about practicality in that sense.
Go for it.
The red ones might be the start of a scene. The green ones might be the change of shots. The red ones might be the start of an entire different segment of a learning management module. So the module actually starts in red, and then maybe each chapter is on purple, and then there could be a sequence of actual scenes. For example, if you're doing an interactive video that are different colors, and then you can filter by, I just want to go to each beginning of each module. I want to go and see each scene. I want to go and see the sub scenes, which could be involved in a virtual a interactive video where the narrative actually branches off. That's the I used to think of markers as something I used in Encore DVD. It's now like I can manage my whole project with markers. And I can't, I know that we did this in another episode, but I can't talk highly enough about the amount that I use markers.
Well, it's about filter and search, right?
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to your search and filtering is as powerful as your organization.
Yeah.
So if you took the time to have a color system and to lay it all out, it'll be so much easier to find that stuff later.
Yeah. And if you can talk to, so you walk to their office, you go into story, like directors and stuff, they've got Post-it notes on the wall, all different colors.
Yeah.
That's how they're organizing their project. You just need to translate that thinking for them, because they want to edit stuff too. And they're like, I like to do rushes and dailies and rough cuts and stuff. But you're like, you need to translate what you've got on the wall there into this program. This is how you do it. Yeah. And then they just go, oh, and it makes their life so much easier all of a sudden. And they never realized it was there. It's amazing. It's great. You just have to, drag them along.
Jimmy loves markers.
Yeah, I love them. I love them. They've made my life so much easier.
Mark my words. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Jimmy, are you going to unplug your mic and give us a musical outro? Why not? Thanks everyone for hanging out. We've gone a little bit over time, but we want to keep doing this sort of stuff and having more people join in. We had a good amount of people chatting this time around. It's awesome to see. And drop us a line if you want to hear about any other particular thing. Here we go, Jimmy, killing it. Hopefully my internet keeps working. All right, I'm going to say ciao. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jimbo. Bye-bye. We're just still going. Paul's on his base now. This is awesome. I feel like I should have an instrument. Instead, I'll drink scotch. Thanks, everyone. My internet keeps going good and bad, and the music speeds up and slows down. It's awesome. Bye!